Hi guys, so we're here with a new video, and this video will be my top 5 most improved specs for PvP in Dragonflight. Of course, it is still subject to change and it is very subjective. Some people might pick other specs outside of those 5, but for me those 5 philosophical, I would say design wise, are very strong because they have a lot more choices beforehand, because maybe Shadowlands had like a little less choices, talent wise or even build wise, but also just in general they have more tools or they feel better PvPing with those specs. Of course, it is still subject to change, like I said, and you can test. Also, it really depends about numbers. We don't have the real numbers at the moment, so it can still feel maybe worse in real life, but at the moment on PTR, but also just design wise, it just feels alright to play those specs. So let's talk about the first spec, which I think has been even more improved since Shadowlands. And I think Arms Warriors is notoriously a great spec. It always has been good. And since Shadowlands, I think Warrior, at least Arms Warrior, has one of the best PvP design specs. They have a lot of utility in PvP talents. They had like a great build like throughout Shadowlands season 1 till season 4, and I feel like there is a lot of great things whenever we're talking about arms, but they did lack the choices that you can have with other specs. Like for example, talent wise, you always had the same old talents, and now with Dragonflight you will have a lot more choices. I'm going to give you a cookie cutter build that would be probably good once Dragonflight will come out. It doesn't mean that you cannot play other builds. It just means like, look, with this build, you get that much more. And I'm going to talk about right now. The first thing you get is basically you get defensive stance like pretty much for free. You will get it without really batting an eye. But I think the main points that I'm going to talk about is impending victory. You'll get a big heal, 30% of your maximum health every 25 seconds. You will have also the good old bounding stride, which was on the same row as defensive stance. You will also have storm bolt coupled with double time, coupled with, of course, impending victory that I have discussed. Like literally on the second row you get all the talents, so that's pretty big. And just in general, I feel like design wise they are one of the most completed specs out there. You have bitter immunity, which is basically giving you a anti-poison, curses and diseases. So whenever your healer is CC'd or whatever, you're not doomed versus an assassination rogue, or you're not doomed versus someone that has a lot of diseases or a lot of curses, like for example. You have also good old Shattering Throw that you can also replace with Wrecking Throw, which is super good to play versus, let's say, an Affliction Warlock, which has Dark Pact. You just do Wrecking Throw instead of just channeling it for 1.5 seconds. You can just throw a Wrecking Throw and pretty much their Dark Pact is completely gone. You also have Frothing Berserker, again giving you a lot of rage regeneration. And you have one of the best things that they actually added on the arms tree, or at least the class tree in the whole, Berserker Shout. It gives you an opportunity to actually help your healer to break CC. And that's very big because CC is one of those things that are very boring but very necessary in PvP. If you are CC'd, like, chances are if you don't have a trinket or a break, you're going to have a bad time. It's not fun to be in CC. It's like you're going to wait and pray that your teammate is going to survive. But now if you're playing with a warrior, they can just break that fear, sap or incap every minute, and that's pretty big. Like, I think intervening on your ally and then doing a berserker shout will help them to actually face like rogues, like in 2v2 whenever you get sapped. They get a pretty clean opener. Often than not, if they get a too big of an opener, you will have to trinket the sap, and that's pretty bad because then you will get blinded or whatever CC is coming on your way. So it will give you a lot more things to work around, and I think in general they don't really lose anything. They do get Spear of Bastion, which is pretty much the one covenant that is probably the most played since season 1. and they get also avatar, of course, but with a great, like, different style of legendary that they had. Like this one will give you avatar or colossus smash casts recklessness at reduced effectiveness, basically reducing the time of recklessness. I think whenever you're doing Colossus Smash and you're ready to do your burst, you want to crit. And Recklessness might help you crit more. And by critting more means you're going to have lethal damage. And I think just that build makes me want to play Arms Warrior. You could do a different build, but that's in a whole other video. But like basically a cookie cutter build gives you everything you need on the class tree. And then you have the arms tree, which basically have a lot of tasteful changes and design ways you can have on your arms warrior. For example, again, you can go for an overpower mortal strike execute build. So basically you will have a lot more modifiers on overpower, get also dreadnought, which is super good. You will have bladestorm, obviously because it's a root break, but also just in general having die by the sword reduced by 30 seconds. So having a 1.5, like a 1 minute and 30 seconds CD on die by the sword, which is pretty big because it means that you're not doomed if you don't have a trinket, for example. You have also the good old Executioner Precision, which is pretty much Executioner legendary, so you will have a lot more damage on your Mortar Strike, and whenever you're doing a Mortar Strike, you will give a proc that can give you more damage on Execute. So basically everything is well meshed together, and the good thing is your PvP talents will help you fight versus different comps, like for example Rebound, which is a PvP talent that was for protection warriors is now also available for arms warrior. So you will have causing them to deal 50% increased damage back to the attacker whenever you're doing a reflect. Like for example, a chaos bolt doing like let's say 40k damage, it is going to do 50% more damage. So the caster will be scared to actually do big casted abilities if you have reflective like reflect up whenever you have, right? Shield reflect. So that's pretty much the arms warrior. You have a lot of things I could discuss like more in depth about rend, having rend, and also massacre is also very big, or having blunt instruments, basically having a longer colossus smash, and also in for the kill, which gives you haste, so you will have a lot of stats playing around with that spec. Let's talk about Beast Mastery Hunter. And Beast Mastery Hunter is, for me, one of those specs that have been improved since Shadowlands. I think, like, I would say design-wise, the gameplay-wise, it feels better. Because you will have a lot more involvement with the pets, instead of just Cobra shotting everything to have the most damage possible. Here you have builds that you can play around Dire Beast, for example. So basically having your beasts actually do damage once and for all whenever they are summoned, but also having Call of the Wild, which is a new talent since I think it might be something from Legion, I'm not sure, so please correct me if I'm wrong. But basically having something that can actually do a burst rotation outside of percentage damage. Like this is going to be flavorful every time you're going to use that ability. It is actually going to be fun to use, right? Having Barb Shot do more damage, having a lot more interesting spells, like for example Wailing Arrow, again having like something that does insane damage in general. Having Brutal Companion, having Piercing Fangs, which gives you more crit damage on your Bestial Wrath. So you have a lot of great things going on, right? Let's talk about the class tree, because Hunter not only has 3 great specs, but now the class tree itself is very interesting, because you can have pretty much everything you want in PvP. You can have survival of the fittest, so you will have a 40% wall at any time. If you really so desire, you are in danger, you put your survival of the fittest and you're safe for 6 seconds. You can have Scalar Shot, so giving you opportunities to CC more easily. You have Intimidation, of course, as BM, but you could also have Intimidation as a marksmanship hunter. Tar Trap, actually rooting people whenever it's activated. You will also have Steel Trap, which is super good for, like, let's say fighting a demon hunter. You will still have Death Chakram, something that was very fun to use in Shadowlands. You also have, of course, Killer Instinct with a 50% increased damage against enemies below 35%, but that's also always numbers. Numbers can always change, but you will have Animal Companion with it, so it will be also very fun to combine those two and have your kill command actually be scary whenever the enemy is low HP. So I think Beast Mastery is coming out a victor out of the new expansion. So let's talk about Affliction Warlock right now. Affliction Warlocks, they are insane. Design wise, I feel like they are very, very fun. They made it actually a lot better to play around dots. A lot of keystones are actually revolved around dots, which gives you enough incentivization to actually keep your dots up at any time, and then you have a burst rotation whenever you're applying, for example, a haunt. So let's talk about the Affliction Warlock tree. We have Soul Swap. So basically, that is a one-button spell that gives you 3 dots in once. So whenever you're getting kited around, like not kited, but pushed in by warriors and by DKs and by monks or whatever, you can just push that spell every 30 seconds to actually have guaranteed damage and not like waste time trying to cast an unstable affliction and getting kicked and then you're lost, right? Grimoire of Sacrifice actually very fun because you have a lot of spells or a lot of talents to actually improve that Grimoire of Sacrifice damage. Like for example here, 15%. 15%, 30% in total. You also have a lot of talents that actually improve your stamina while having it. So you really are not punished whenever you play without a pet. Like here, 10% increased stamina for having Grimoire of Sacrifice. The same for Soul Link, having 10% increased stamina for having Grimoire of Sacrifice. You have also Grimoire of Synergy, also a very fun legendary to have, now back as a talent. You also have Soulburn, which basically gives you access to mass healing. You will be able to survive a lot of damage, and not only that, you have also a lot of utility. You have the CC, you have also the Dark Pact still here. You can also improve it even more if you so desire. You can play around self-healing, or you can play around one-shot potential. You can play around the Summon Dark Glare, you can play around the Haunt, or you even can play around the Unstable Affliction with Malefic Ruptures and having Blossoms. So every time you're doing 3 Malefic Ruptures, you will have 20% additional damage from your damage over time effects. So that's very, very fun. I feel like Affliction Warlocks are very, very good to actually play in PvP in Dragonflight because you also have precognition. So it means that like fake casting gets rewarded with anti-CC, anti-interrupt, and having 15% haste, which is again a burst rotation. So I think in general, Affliction Warlocks are very, very good, very, very fun, and I'm just watering like it's like watering in my mouth how I am actually excited to play PvP in Dragonflight. I'm gonna do a lot of solo shuffles. I'm going to do a lot of 2v2, 3v3, RBGs. It is actually going to be glorious, and I can't wait to do that with you guys on stream, but also whenever I'm making a video and talking about my guides. So let's talk about the 2 last specs. Pick up the pace. We're talking about Frost DK, and it has been a very long fight. But now Frost DK has finally some recognition, but also a lot more fun builds to actually play around. Not only going full mastery, but having crit actually meaning something. So you remember Frost DK was the Pillar of Frost spec, basically existing only while they are in Pillar of Frost, and then it was like sitting back, set up, and then waiting for a setup, and then go back with a Pillar of Frost. No. This time you have Pillar of Frost, but you also have Ice Cap, which also is going to reduce the Pillar of Frost. So having crit as a stat is something very, very interesting now. You also have Might of the Frozen Wastes, so basically having your auto attacks critical strikes always granting killing machines. That is actually mind-blowing. Like, I don't know if it's a tooltip error, but I feel like if you have like 25% crit, it might be insane to actually have that much killing machine procs, because they will do frost damage, and frost damage is very, very nice for frost decays. You have also bone grinder, basically having granted 20% critical strike chance for every time you're consuming a killing machine, and it stacks up to 5 times, and after 5 times you get 20% increased frost damage. Again, frost damage. And then you have Shattering Blade. When Frost Strike damages an enemy with 5 stacks of Razor Eyes, it will consume them to deal an additional 100% damage. So again, a lot more damage. And you have, it's not only that, but also Frost Strike has a 20% chance on critical strikes to grant killing machines. So basically, you're incentivized to crit a lot. So if you have like 20% crits, and then you have like that bone grinder talent to actually improve even more crit, you are going to crit every other strike, and that is going to be very good to have killing machine procs, but also feeling good. And you will have access to the legendary, basically having a AoE stun on a vertical, which is super fun, but also having another legendary, which is Frigid Executioner, having Obliterate deals 15% increased damage and has a 15% chance to refund 2 runes. So you're going to have a lot of fun around that. And I think I'm just so surprised with the Frost Decay tree, because that's not only the only way you can build a Frost Decay. You can build a dual build for Frost Decay and probably do good in PvP, because again, you can play around Remorseless Winter, and Remorseless Winter AoE damage is quite insane. Trust me, in RBGs you're going to feel that Remorseless Winter whenever you have Biting Cold, Gathering Storm, and Everfrost talented. I think people are going to fall down, like they are going to die really quickly. Then you have Chill Streak, finally a talent, and then you have also Avalanche coming back. A lot of great things, but I'm not done. You have also the class tree, having all access to self-sustain. You will have anti-magic shell, which also improving with anti-magic barrier, which gives you more duration, more amount, but also lesser CD. So basically having a 40-second CD on AMS is pretty big versus casters. And then you have AMZ with also an amelioration on AMZ, so that's also very strong. And then you have Death Pact, and then you have Asphyxiate, a stun that you can have with Blinding Sheet. So this leads, again, you have a lot of CC, a lot of self-sustain, a lot of protective CDs that you can put on yourself to just survive damage. And then of course you have Iceborne Fortitude, you have Acclimation to have reduced CDs. You have so many great things, and then you have Abomination Limb to try to keep them with you whenever you're going to slaughter them. And the one good thing is also, whenever you're low HP, you will get a big wall, and that big wall is quite insane. I mean, that I think that might be broken in PvP. They might nerf it, but even if it's nerfed, I think it's still very good because you will have more time to survive. So that's pretty much the DK. But also, I might say the last is also very interesting. We have fire mages, and fire mages, you might think, look, Togray, why fire mage? You're not playing mage. But trust me, whenever I see those trees, I just want to test it out and like go wild with my ideas. Like, this tree is pretty much the cookie cutter build that you can have with fire mages. You can go for a combust build, basically having more combust, more damage while doing combust, living bomb, again having a choice to actually get stealthies, for example, although the damage is quite laughable. You also have, of course, Sun King's Blessings, which is not that great, but I guess if you can combine it with, let's say, Pyroclasm, could be very interesting, but also with Tempered Flames, having a reduced cast time on Pyroblast. I mean, whenever you have like a polymorph target and you have time to actually cast, I think you can do serious damage. Like, instead of Greater Pyro having that, you can go for a Pyroclasm with Sun King's Blessing, with the Tempered Flames, and you can have a lot of fun with that. Having less combusts, but at least you will have more damage, and just also having more combust as well with Sun King's Blessing. So I think by all in all, I think the Fire Mage tree is quite the same, still good, But I'm talking about the class tree. The class tree is also quite insane. You will have Blast Wave as a fire mage. Again, that's also very fun. You'll have more damage. You will have Alter Time with Master of Time with Displacement. So you will have crazy mobility, but you will also have time anomaly. So again, you will have more chances to get Combust with a Fire Blast charge. So you can basically go wild whenever you get that proc. Of course, you will have probably all kinds of weak auras to actually like notice that Combust. Again, you will have Shimmer, you will have the Ice Block heal, which is a fan favorite Covenant Soul Conduit that you could have in Shadowlands. Ring of Frost, again, coming back. You will have Slow, which is a fantastic ability to have as a fire mage, because I guess kiting people around whenever you are like trying to get your combust, I guess that might be very, very interesting instead of just casting a Frostbolt. And again, I'm talking about that build, but you could also go for a shifting power build, which gives you more and easier times to get combust. But you also can have freezing cold, basically having a big freeze and basically having a snare whenever they're like having their freeze dispelled or expired. So I think you have a lot of great things going on for mages in general. I took Fire Mage because I think I'm very intrigued with the build that you can go for, Pyroclasm build with Sun King's Blessings and of course the Tempered Flames. I don't know if it's going to be any good, but I think in general having a Fire Mage with Ice Wall is pretty dangerous. Having the healer polymorphed and then ice walled away, and then you have your like your rogue doing a kidney shot on the main target. I think it's going to be very, very insane to actually survive the damage, and I think it's going to be very, very scary. So what do you think in the comment section below about those 5 specs? Am I wrong? Am I right? I think I'm right about that. You might have other specs, but I think those 5 specs are very, very interesting for PvP in Dragonflight. They are surely improved on. They don't really lose anything on that. And I think, okay, DB having a 45-second CD is pretty annoying, but that's I think is justified with the amount of CC you have as a mage, but also the amount of damage that you have at your disposal since Dragonflight. In Shadowlands, you would have a lot less damage outside of Combust, but now outside of Combust, you could do serious damage with Fireball. You could do serious damage with your Pyroblast whenever you can class with your Pyroclasm, for example. So again, let me know in the comment section below. I hope you enjoyed that video. Again, we'll see each other very soon with a new video on Wrath of the Lich King or Dragonflight, and I hope you stay safe. Have a great day. Be sure to stay safe. Bye.